All right, so here's our 2.3 lesson, solving for a variable, and the only definition you really need to know is that a literal equation is an equation with, oh, it's got cut off there, an equation with multiple variables. So kind of think formulas, like y equals mx plus b. See how that's got all variables and the only numbers there are 1? That's a type of literal equation. So for the most part, we're going to be dealing with formulas today. All right, so if you will take a second to try example 1, they give you the formula for density, and they are talking about something made of lead. So they give you the density. The lead has a very high density right here, and they give you the volume, and they're asking you to solve for the mass. So I want you to pause the video, try to plug in those variables, and see if you can solve for the mass. All right, so unless I made a mistake, when I solved, I got that the mass was 0.1701, and we always, if it's word problems, we always want to try to use some type of unit. So mass is a kind of a weight measurement, so kilograms would be the unit there. So that should have been pretty easy. That's just kind of like a one step to undo the division. Right here, you're going to have to use multiplication, which is going to cancel. Multiply on the other side. That's how I got my final answer. But what we're going to do today is going to be very similar to this, except they're not going to give us any numbers. They're going to give us an equation like D equals M over V, and they're going to want us to solve or get the equation where M is by itself. So now we want to think, well, I need to get rid of this V and its division, so I'm going to multiply both sides by V. And when I do that, it's going to cancel here, and I'm going to be left with V times D equals M, right? Or the mass equals the density times the volume, sorry. All right, so today we're going to be doing things where they don't give us any numbers. We're just rearranging the equations, solving, if you will, for a specific variable. So let's look at a few more examples. All right, for example, on this one, they're asking us to use the same formula. So density equals mass over volume. And this time they want us to get V by itself. All right, so we could still start in the same place, multiply both sides by V. Or another thing we haven't talked about yet is we could make this a fraction and cross multiply, which is technically what we're doing, I guess, anyway. So that's going to give me dV equals M. And then I want V by itself. So now I'm going to need to divide by D to undo that multiplication. And V is going to equal M over D. All right, hopefully you're kind of catching on to what we're trying to do here. All right, in example B, they're wanting us to use this formula and isolate the variable h. All right, so as it stands right now, I have length times width times height. Remember, when those things are bumped up next to each other, it's all multiplication. And I am trying to undo multiplication. So to undo multiplication, I can divide by, you can divide by L and W separately, but to me, L and W are going to have to be divided in the end, so I'm just going to do it at the same time. On the other side, nothing cancels, so I'm just going to be left with H equals V over LW. All right, the very last one that I want to do, you ought to recognize this formula, y equals mx plus b. And they're wanting me to solve for m. Okay, so to do that, this one's a little bit trickier because we got a few operations. We have multiplication and addition going on. Well, if you had numbers in there, and you were trying to get m by itself, I think you might recognize that this b has got to go first. So to get rid of that, I'm going to subtract b from both sides. Now, a y and a b can't subtract from each other. You can't do y minus b because they're different variables. So all you're going to write is y minus b equals mx. All right, so take a second to notice what I did there. And now m, remember m is what I'm solving for. M is almost by itself, but I've got multiplication going on right here. So to undo multiplication, I need to divide the x away, because I don't want the x there, I want the m by itself. On the other side, divide x. Remember, none of these numbers or variables divide because they're all different variables. So I'm just going to write my final answer as m equals y minus b divided by x. Now, I know you might look at this and say, well, why are we doing this? A lot of times if you have really complicated equations and you're going to be doing the same process with different numbers over and over and over again, it makes more sense to solve it the first time than it would be to solve, plug in numbers and resolve over and over and over again. Okay,